Hello everyone, and welcome back to Planet Zoo. In today's episode, we're just going to ignore the protesters that have shown up here. I'm going to start by showing you our new and improved crocodile viewing area. So I did a little bit of work off camp to get this all tidied up. The pathing was a huge issue and we had this weird angled viewing area. I've still got a little bit of touch-ups to do here, but we can ignore them for now. I'll just want to show you what we've created. So we've got some lovely display areas here, and then it opens out into this viewing area where you can see the crocodile enjoying its enrichment and a few other things. The protesters have shown up actually because when I boxed up all of the animals and moved them to the entrance, these rocks were all in the way, so we couldn't get anywhere in his habitat. So we've had to take out a few more rocks, but they are using the viewing area a little bit more over by the underwater feeder, and I have considered building an underwater viewing area that goes all the way through, but I think we'll leave that for a new exhibit or something else. Right now I'm really happy. It's taken about 3 episodes to get this just right, but we're there now and I can leave this habitat and start on something new today over here. That's right, today we are going to be building a food and drinks area, and we're going to set it up like kind of like a little log cabin area where there are 2 shops in each cabin, and it's a bit of a mix and match of different styles of cabin. We're just going to go really simple to start with a little 1x3 box. In this middle section we're going to put a few planters and stuff in, just moving all of these things in a little bit because I messed that up from the off, which isn't a great start. So these are going to be fairly basic, but we're going to create a nice sort of seating area that's a little bit like a woodland retreat, and we're going to make these cabins stand out a little bit. Just experimenting with roofs, none of it seeming to work, so we're going to go with the standard all-in-one roof, like you can see with that little wall section there. And this is basically going to give our guests a nice area to sit down, have some food. We've had a lot of complaints that there's nothing to drink here at the moment, and we do have like a lack of toilet facilities and food facilities, so I think it's important for our guests' happiness that we put those in place today. We're not going to be doing any new animal habitats, we're just going to spend the day getting this nice and ready, and then I'm going to talk a little bit as well about my long-term plan. So I did open up another franchise off camera, thinking about what I was going to do next, and realised that the money that we make in this zoo does not carry over, which I think is a bit of a shame, because as a franchise that money should be pooled and shared. And the idea I had was that I was going to terraform a brand new area, make a nice mountainous sort of multi-biome facility, and move it somewhere like Europe, where we kind of have a lot of different weather changing and things, so that it fits in and becomes a bit more environmentally accurate. In the UK we've got a mixture of weathers, but we can't really have snow all year round or whatever and things like that. I just wanted to make a nice area that kind of had a multitude of biomes and habitats that we could see naturally fitting into the surroundings. And because we've got such a huge area, I thought, great, that could be really, really useful and really fun to do. Unfortunately, as the money doesn't carry over, we can't do that. I'm just going to explain what I'm doing here. We're popping in a few logs, and we're going to make kind of like a log pattern going all the way along, just to make this roof stand out a little bit, because at the moment it looks quite boring and I don't really like how these normal roofs look. They just look flat and one-dimensional. So we're going to have a nice little run of logs going all the way along, and that's going to be a general theme for this build. It also, the colour of these logs match the awnings that I've put on, so everything kind of looks nice and as it should. Like I say, this is a really basic build. We'll get a lot more advanced at a later date, and I'll probably do a little bit of off-camera editing to make things pop a little bit more. But the beauty is going to be in actually the whole area, not just the one building, and it should all fit in nicely and create a picturesque little sitting area for our guests. The other thing is they are going to walk through stuff. I haven't yet perfected how to make the pathing issue work for me. So we'll probably see some people walking through walls and things, because these paths are all going to be quite tight. I may put in some barriers at some point, but because I build so close to the road it doesn't always work, and I can't actually place barriers, but they seem to be the only thing that stops guests walking through stuff. I'd also read if you put bins in they'll not walk through them, but that seems to be a touch and go issue. People see guests walking through bins. Why am I still talking about bins? Let's carry on, and I'll talk about the big plan. So what I want to do is I want to make this nice mountainous region off in the background, so we've got this backdrop that people see when they come into the zoo. We're probably not going to fill out the whole area here, so I think it would be nice to make almost like a background scene. If you think of it as like a play of some sort, this is just our backdrop, and that's going to be a nice thing for people to come in and see, and then of course we could build up to it. But my grand vision was to make a new zoo that had you begin at like this nice grassland biome, and then as you walk through you come to this desert where we have a lot of the African biome animals, and kind of make like a Serengeti type safari, and they can go there and there's a drive-through tour of the place, and then we get into this lush rainforest area ending up in a mountain that trails off to like snow-capped peaks and stuff where they can go and see kind of like the Siberian tigers and things. And we really want to kind of make as if there's this culmination of natural habitats in this one place, rather than what we've currently got, which is a nice zoo. I won't argue. I think I've done a lot of good work here, and I've had a really nice start, and I've got to grips with things and not run out of patience. But I'm thinking big picture, and now that we're getting a little bit of money, I think the best thing to do would be to go hard on our research, get everything that the mechanics researched, and then start thinking about this grand idea in this zoo. I can then start terraforming in the background and making things look how I want them to look before finally putting in some more exhibits and planning out the pathing and things like that. And of course, that's going to make a mass redevelopment of this area, and I'm fine with that, but I am conscious of the fact that I've already done a mass redevelopment after we lost our save file, so that may be a few episodes away. And while all of that's happening, we can just keep letting the bank balance grow. We're looking pretty healthy now, sitting at about 210,000, which I think is great, and play around a little bit more with the tools and work out. So this becomes this testing block and a testing ground for our animals and our habitats, which I think is going to be really nice. It will be sad to see the crocodile exhibit go because I put a lot of work into that, but I think it's a good idea long term to push for a mass redevelopment of this zoo. And I'll probably do an episode where I do a lot of terraforming, or maybe I'll make that a bonus episode, because terraforming's great, it's really fun to watch, it's nice to experiment, but I also think it gets a little bit bland and boring, so it may well be that we have a lot of like little cuts and things like that, and then move on from that, because I want to create good content for you guys, and I want to create things that interests the viewer. And me playing around with mountains and getting terraforming wrong for about 6 hours probably ain't going to be a fun episode. So I may do a little quick montage of the terraforming that I do, and talk about the vision that I have for it while I'm on. So we're just coming around to finishing off this third shack. I've kept the first two pretty similar, and then made this new one have a little bit of variation. Obviously the middle one has the toilet block on the side, and just to kind of mix things up a little bit. It's looking good so far. I'm quite enjoying how it's going to look long term. We're going to put a few walls in and make it look almost like a festival ground. When you go to like a festival and all of the food courts and everything are all in one place, little pop-up shacks and things. So I think that'll be quite nice. I'm just experimenting with the pathing because I've made it difficult for myself. I should have put the path in first and then matched the buildings up to it, because this looks like an absolute pig's ear. But we'll work it out. See, this is what happens. I don't always plan out. I have like a basic idea in my head when I'm building, and where I'm planning out what I want to do and how I want to build something. But then I put no effort into like any advanced planning pre-episode. I just come in and do it, and we see what happens. So right, okay, so this is, yeah, these look a lot better. That one on the end has no sort of shops in it or anything at the moment, so it can just be a piece of scenery for all we care at the moment. But this is looking a lot better. We've got nice little area, and what we'll do is we'll probably raise the ground around this lower half here and fill that in with some rocks and things so it doesn't look too juxtaposed with everything else. Yeah, that's going to look good once we get a few rocks in. I'm just going to copy this one over from the crocodile habitat. That one looks good. We'll just make some adjustments here. Great, yeah, that looks good. So yeah, this kind of main area that we currently have, that is essentially the zoo entirety at the moment. What we're going to do with this is we're going to turn it into like a grand entrance area where people can come in, they'll get the tickets, we'll put an information kiosk, and we'll think big. Right now everything's small, and that's just because I'm learning the game and I'm getting better at things and seeing how I get on. But making bigger exhibits, bigger habitats, expanding the pathing to get rid of the crowd control problems that we're having, all of that I think we need to move on to in future episodes. So for now, we'll keep it simple, we'll keep doing what we're doing, but in the back of our heads we're going to be thinking big picture stuff and looking to make something really grand, and I think that'll make this zoo itself stand out really well. And I should probably set an end goal, like I was saying last episode, for this series, where we kind of get to a point where we stop and then we can look at creating a new zoo, and we'll have like, it'll be season 2 or something like that, I don't know. So we've got the basics done here, and we're just going to touch up with doing a nice little surround for it so that it fits in. If you don't like plaster, learn to like it, because it's the most versatile building material in the entire game when it comes to walls. It's flat colour, you can do whatever you want with it, and it fits in nicely with so many other different building materials. Like here, we use it as a white plaster wall. We can put things on top of it, we can attach other things to it, and it never seems to look out of place. That's why I used it on the main sort of zoo buildings, and that's why I'm going to continue using it here and probably throughout. The only issue I have with it is there aren't a lot of building components that are plaster, so it makes things very difficult. Like here, I think we're going to have a try with these rust. See, the clay looks great, it's got a nice texture to it, but I think here we'll make some pillars out with these objects. Just sink all of the walls down a touch, and then that's it. Yep, dropping those in, and this is going to be like a canopy archway that comes in. We'll put some nice little flags on it and make that run all the way across. Just going to line that up and then duplicate the other one, so you can see what we're creating here. Once it's done, I think it's going to, we'll put some planters in, we'll put a load of tables in, and just make it this nice comfortable area where people can get away from the zoo, get away from the crowds, and sit and relax for a bit, enjoy the trees, enjoy the sounds. You can still just about see the warthog habitat, and obviously where that empty building is, we'll throw down a couple of ATMs and things. The one thing that's going to happen as soon as we finish this build though is there's going to be a rush of crowds, and they're all going to go there, and it's going to expose how terrible the pathing is, because they're all going to walk through walls and everything, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare. So that's going to be fun to see. But I think this is looking really good. Like, the more I play this game, the more I experiment with things and truly appreciate what it's like to have this creative mindset in video games. I mean, I come from a creative background. A little bit about myself while I'm doing this. I come from a creative background. We're coming to the end of lockdown, but my kind of creative output has been completely reduced, and it's been very difficult while the lockdown's been on to actually have an outlet for that. So it's really nice to actually be doing this and creating all of this, because I feel like really inspired by it, and I've been watching other videos and taking little bits and hints and tips from them, and it's been a lot of fun actually to have this as that sort of outlet. And of course, it's one of my favourite games and I love playing it. and I like sharing that with you guys, so just gonna see if we can get some benches in. I think actually these might fit quite flush against those little panels and look as if that's a backboard. Yeah, that's nice. Straight across. And a few on this side. And then some at these rocks here. Next we want to put in a few bins. Go with these new world bins because they seem to fit in with the theme that we've got going on. I don't really like putting them next to shops. I'm going to put them in front of these ones though because it's an empty unit. Maybe I could do some like unit for sale signs in there. See if we can entice some business. And then we'll pop down some trees just to give this a nice bit of coverage and a bit of shade. And the last thing I want to do, pop down a few planters and fill them with something. Some nice pretty flowers. The flowers don't have a wide colour palette, and I think it's because we've not actually unlocked them all yet, but it's difficult to have like the same purple and white flowers and then the same purple, red and white flowers and things like that. Another thing I'm going to start doing actually to speed up the speed builds. Okay, we'll go with that. I'm going to start creating little clusters of flowers that I know are going to fit in quite nicely, or we'll pre-make some planters so that we can drop them in whenever we want, because what I'm doing is I'm just grabbing the nearest thing, whereas if I have kind of like a stock built up of like 10 different variations of planter, we can drop them in whenever we want. So we're going to pop some mulch in these gaps here. They'll be filled at a later date with some nice flora and fauna, bit of lighting, and maybe we could put a water feature in one of them. I think that would be quite a nice touch actually. Nice water feature in that central one. And we'll just pop some lighting on for when it does get dark. The annoying thing is about the franchise mode is the day-night cycle. Like, it's very unpredictable, so I'm just throwing these lights down. When it gets dark, I'll probably change things up a little bit, and we'll have a look at what it's actually like when it's lit. So that's it. Done. We've got a lovely little area here where people can come and relax, and you can see the hordes are already running through the walls. He has sat on a bench. Oh dear, that's a very strange occurrence. He's walked through a wall, sat on the bench with his legs in the wall, and he's chatting to his friend who is stood in the wall as well. Okay, they're up and they're off. Floating through the wall and going back on themselves. Can't they fix these vandalized things? We must have some vandals somewhere. That brings me on to our next thing. We need to hire more staff and set up some work zones. So we're actually going to hugely increase our staff output. So we're going to assign everyone to work zone 1. That's another thing I need to do in future, is we're going to need to split these work zones because this is a huge area now that we're asking our staff to cover, and obviously we also don't have enough staff rooms, so it may be worth, where we've built our new section here, I think it might be worth making one of those buildings a staff room, because our current staff room can only support 4 staff members and we have 12, I think. So probably getting another couple of staff rooms is a good idea, or researching the medium-sized staff room. A lot of the current staff had huge workloads because of the work area that we were asking them to cover. But as you can see right now, our vendors have filled up and we've got loads of people coming in to view things. We've still got a load of clipping issues going on, but suspend your disbelief and imagine that that isn't happening and witness this wonderful little seating area where people can go and enjoy the sun for a little bit, pick up some food, buy some balloons and have a drink. I think what would be nice actually is if we could make like a resort like you can in Planet Coaster. You know, like they have in the huge African safari parks and things, where you go and you stay in a hotel that's quite close to the safari park and then you have like an itinerary. I think that would be really nice. Hopefully they bring that out in a future update. I'm going to finish off by increasing our prices because we had a lot of other complaints saying that they think that it's too cheap, which is always nice to hear. So that's it for this episode. Next one, I don't know what we're going to do. I haven't planned it yet, but I suppose I'll just log in, do a little bit of touching up, and see what happens for our next episode. No idea what it's going to be. But thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more Planet Zoo and follow this grand idea, hopefully that comes to fruition, give me a like and a subscribe, and I will see you next time.